Hey everyone. Alright, so spark plugs. Every once in a while it's a good idea to change out the spark plugs on your car. Bad spark plugs can lead to loss of power and just make your engine run poorly in general. This is a 1991 Prelude here with me, but the procedure that I'm going to use will work on most cars, any that I can think of anyway. Certainly any Honda about this generation. If you've got a Civic or an Accord, a newer or an older Prelude for that matter, this will work just fine for you. It's inexpensive. New spark plugs don't cost that much, and the tools are either tools you'll probably already have or ones that you can easily get for very little money. So just to go over what we need, I have here in my hand just a simple ratchet with two extensions on it and a 5/8 spark plug socket on the end. You can tell the spark plug sockets because they usually have a rubber insert on the inside to help catch the plug when you use. This is the size for this car and for the second gen Preludes as well, I know that. So we'll need that. The other thing you'll need, new spark plugs. Now it's important to get the kind that are suggested by the manufacturer, in this case Honda. And the way to tell that is usually if you look, there will be a sticker somewhere in the engine bay. In this case, it's actually on the underside of the hood, and it gives a brand and the code. So for this 1991 Prelude, it's an NGK plug, a ZFR 5F-11, and obviously you need 4 of them, one for each cylinder. The other thing you'll need, I'll put those there. The other thing you'll need is this little thing here. Looks like a pocket knife almost. This is called a feeler gauge. These are inexpensive, and you need these because spark plugs don't always come with the contact gapped to the correct distance for your car. So you use the feeler gauge to get the gap right, and the gap will be listed on the sticker that indicates the plug. So for this car, it's 1.1 millimeters is the gap that's recommended for the NGK plug. So we'll get right into it here. First thing I need to do, obviously, is take the old plugs out, have a look at them, and then get ready to put the new ones in. Set the tools aside. So a good tug, and you can just pull out the plug wires from each one of the tubes leading down into the cylinders. Those should come out with a good tug. Good time too to check if there's been any water inside your plug outlets. It's not a good idea to have water down in there. That can cause a cracking in the spark plugs or misfires, things like that. So just double check that you're getting a good seal. If you see any indication that water's been in there, it's a bad sign, or oil for that matter. Then once those are out of the way, we can just drop this down in here. They shouldn't be too tight. Spark plugs aren't threaded in very tightly. So just quickly pop each one of these out. There, no problem. So there's the used plug. Just looking at this one, some things you can look for. You can look for a lot of soot and just burnt markings built up on the plug itself. You can look at how sharp the edges are on the interior contact, and any indication of rounding of the contact, or if it's overly charred up with soot and stuff from your motor is a bad sign. That's a plug that needs to be changed. So just looking at these one, looks like it's about time that I switch them out. The edges are a little bit rounded on it. You can also look on the internet for plug reading guides, and if your engine is running rich or lean, you can tell some of those things from the plug. So that one's junk, so just put that aside, get the other ones out. Anyway, with the plugs out, you can clean up the holes a little bit if you like, but mostly just need to get the new plugs in. Now you can't just pop them in just like this because, as I mentioned before, the gap will generally be wrong. coming from the NGK factory. And it's not a fault of the plug manufacturer, it's just that these individual plugs might be made for many, many different types of cars, so we've got to find the gap that's right for us. Using the gap width indicated on the car or in your manual, you need to get your feeler gauge all set up. And you can stack 2, 3 more of the blades together if you need to come up with a particular combination that's your right measurement. Make sure you're using metric to the 1.1 millimeters suggested for this car. Just take the kind of blade of the gauge and insert it into the gap in the plug, and you want it to fit snugly with no play. So stick it in there. So in this case, this one's a little bit too tight, so if I just weasel it in there a bit, the gap will increase enough that I can slide it in no problem. Okay, so now do that again. There, that's about right now. Perfect. So that one's done, and you need to do that same gap to each one of the plugs. So that's all 4 of the new spark plugs, gapped appropriately to the specifications. Now if you look at your new plugs, you'll notice that they have a washer around the base. It doesn't come off, and it's actually meant to be squished a little bit when the plug is inserted. And you can check the torque specs. I'll put them at the end of this video for how tight to do this. But as you're tightening them, you should feel that last bit. You should feel that washer squish down, and that's when you know it's in right. Remember, for most Honda engines anyway, in fact, all that I can think of, you'll be threading this into an aluminum block, so it's very important that you don't over-tighten it. By the same token, you don't want it to be too loose either, but the danger in over-tightening is that the last thing you would want is to strip out the threads for your spark plug in your cylinder head. That would be an expensive repair and certainly do a lot of damage that would be hard to fix up. So exercise caution and use your judgment, and don't strong arm it too much. They don't go in that tightly, and once again, if you have a torque wrench or something to use, that's best to use that. I'll put the torque specs at the end of the video. So what I find helpful to avoid cross-threading them on the way in anyway, just take your extension off your ratchet. Gives you a little more feel for the socket, and then just drop the new plug in there. It'll stick in there thanks to that rubber bit inside the socket. And we can just try to get these into these holes. Just gently thread them in at first. They should thread in very nicely because those are good clean threads. And by doing it with your hands this way, not getting the ratchet involved before you need to, it's a great way to make sure that you're not going to start cross-threading it or something like that. You want these things to go in good and smoothly so you don't damage your head. So you just finger tighten it, and there. I've hit the end of where I can finger tighten it. And then from that point on, we can just use the ratchet gently at first. Just gently. You feel that washer squish a little bit. And then there's a definite increase in the snugness after that washer is squished. Just a little bit of snug, and then leave it be. Alright, so got the plugs all back in, and I've started to put the plug wires back in. To do this, all you need to do, just feed the contact down through the hole, and then just push, and you should hear a little click as it seats against the spark plug. That's all it takes. That's what's involved in doing your spark plugs. Hope you have success with it. Once you're done, take the car out for a drive, start it up, make sure everything sounds good, and it should run a little better. Spark plugs can even out your idle, do things like that, improve the ride. Anyway, be safe out there, and a huge shout out to all the Honda Prelude owners out there. Drive safely and have fun. Okay, that's it.